A lone human engineer, Evan Cross, is repairing power relays near an abandoned moon outpost. Suddenly his sensors detect something crashing. When he goes to check, he finds a strange alien woman lying in a crater, bleeding dark metallic blood, her breathing weak, her eyes glowing faint red. Unknown to him, this woman is Saraxa, the feared vampire queen of the void, a galaxy-wide legend known for draining entire fleets. But Evan has no idea. For the first time in centuries, Saraxa is powerless, starving, and close to death. She should kill him instantly, but she cannot even lift her hand. Evan steps closer, frightened but compassionate, and does something no one in the galaxy has ever done. He helps her. This single act will shake entire star systems. Evan discovers the wreck and pulls the wounded woman from the burning debris. He notices her skin is cold like ice, yet she is still alive. Her armor looks ancient, royal, and terrifying, but Evan thinks she is a simple injured traveler. She tries to speak, but only whispers one word in a broken voice: water. Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The night on the abandoned moon was quiet, almost too quiet. Evan Cross, a human engineer working for a small salvage company, stood outside his old shelter and checked the sky. His job was simple: repair broken power lines, fix damaged doors, and wait for the next ship to pick him up. He had been alone for 3 months, and silence had become his closest companion. But tonight, that silence broke. A bright flash cut across the sky like a blade of fire. It moved fast, too fast to be a normal ship. Evan stared at it, confused, as it crashed into the rocky ground a few kilometers away. The shock wave made dust rise into the air. Evan felt the ground tremble under his feet. He grabbed his gear bag and ran to his rover. Something had fallen, something big, and he was the only human here to check it. Evan drove through the dark plain, guided only by the light of the moon and the thin beeping of his scanner. The signal grew stronger the closer he got. When he reached the crash site, he stopped the rover and stepped out slowly. The air was filled with the smell of burned metal. Pieces of black armor were scattered everywhere. Smoke rose from a half-shattered pod lying in a crater. It was unlike any ship he had ever seen, smooth, dark, and covered in markings he couldn't read. Evan walked around the pod with caution. Then he froze. Someone was lying beside the wreck. A woman. Her body was half covered in strange black armor that looked alive. Her hair was long and silver, spread across the ground like spilled light. Her skin was pale, almost too pale. He wasn't moving. Evan rushed to her side. "Hey, can you hear me?" He touched her wrist gently. Her skin was cold, cold like ice. But there was a pulse. Weak, but there. He looked at her wounds. A deep cut on her shoulder was leaking dark metallic blood. Another gash ran across her ribs. She needed help, right now. He didn't think twice. He lifted her, surprised by how light she was despite wearing armor. She didn't resist, she didn't even wake. Her head rested against his shoulder as he carried her to the rover. Evan laid her in the back seat and drove quickly toward his outpost. The outpost was small, a single living room, a tiny medical station, and a storage room. Evan gently placed the woman on the medical table and turned on the emergency lights. The soft yellow glow revealed more details about her. Her armor was cracked. Strange glowing symbols were fading across it. Her lips were slightly parted, and her breathing was slow, almost silent. Evan reached for his medkit, opened a bottle of disinfectant, and prepared a bandage. But the moment he touched her wound, her eyes shot open. He stepped back, startled. Her eyes were glowing red. Not bright, but enough to make him tense. She stared at him, confused, weak, and breathing hard. Her lips moved slowly. Her voice was soft, like wind on broken glass. Evan swallowed, nodded, and rushed to fetch a cup of water. When he returned, she tried to sit up but failed. He helped her slowly lift her head. She drank the water in small sips, her breath trembling. After a moment, she whispered again, "Where am I?" "An abandoned moon outpost," Evan said softly. "You crashed not far from here. You're safe now. I patched the small wounds, but some cuts are deep. I'll try to treat them." Her eyes moved to his face, slowly, tiredly. She looked at him as if she had never seen a human before, or had not seen one in a very long time. He continued cleaning her wounds. When the med gel touched her blood, it hissed and smoked a little. Evan frowned but kept working. She didn't flinch or cry out. She simply watched him in silence, her glowing eyes blinking slowly. After a few minutes, her breathing calmed. Her eyelids dropped. "You should rest," Evan said. She didn't answer, but her body relaxed. Within seconds, she was unconscious again. Hours passed. Evan sat at the table, watching her from a distance as he ate a simple protein bar. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was strange about her. He had never seen a species like her. Her armor looked ancient. Her body temperature was too low for a living being. And her blood, it didn't look like blood at all. But she needed help, and no matter how unusual she was, Evan wouldn't ignore an injured person. As he stood to check her again, a sudden noise echoed outside. A metallic crunch. Someone stepping on debris. Evan grabbed his flashlight and peeked out the small window. 3 figures approached the outpost. Scavengers. Armed. He cursed under his breath. Scavengers roamed abandoned moons, stealing tech and killing anyone in their way. They must have seen the crash too. He pulled the emergency lever to lock the door. The rusty metal slid down slowly. Then the pounding began. "Open the door," one of the scavengers shouted. "We know you found something. Hand it over." Evan backed away from the door. He had no weapons, no way to defend himself. He looked at the woman on the table. Still unconscious, still weak. The door shook again as the scavengers tried to break in. The woman's eyes opened. Evan didn't notice. He was staring at the door. But she noticed him. She noticed his fear. Her eyes glowed brighter, deep crimson now. She pushed herself up slowly. Her voice was soft but heavy with power. "Move." Evan turned, surprised. "Wait, you're hurt." "Move," she said again. Something in her tone made him obey instantly. She slipped off the medical table and stood shakily, her legs trembling. She walked toward the door with slow, controlled steps. The scavengers outside were laughing as they prepared to break the lock. But the moment she stepped close, the air around her changed. It grew cold. The lights flickered. Her eyes burned like red suns. And then she whispered a single word in a language Evan didn't understand. The scavengers stopped laughing. They screamed. Pure fear tore through them. Evan heard them stumble, fall, and run away into the darkness, their screams echoing until they disappeared completely. The woman swayed, losing strength. Evan rushed to catch her. She collapsed into his arms. He helped her back to the table. She was breathing hard. Her energy was fading again. "That was close," Evan said nervously, not sure what he had just witnessed. She didn't answer. Her eyes closed again. The next morning, Evan woke on the floor beside her table. He rubbed his eyes and looked up. She was awake, watching him silently. He stood quickly. "Good morning. You're looking better." Her expression did not change. Her cold voice broke the silence. "You helped me." "Of course," Evan said. "No one helps my kind," she whispered. Evan frowned. "Why not?" She looked away, her face unreadable. "Because my kind brings death." He didn't know how to respond, so he changed the subject. "Can you tell me your name?" She hesitated. Finally, she spoke. "Saraxa." Evan nodded slowly. "Nice to meet you, Saraxa." She looked at him with surprise, as if no one had ever said those words to her before. Evan walked to the window to check the horizon. Then he froze. 3 large ships had entered the moon's orbit. Dark, heavy, warships. Saraxa sat up instantly, sensing the same thing. Her eyes turned cold again. "They found me," she said softly. Evan turned. "Who?" She looked into his eyes. Her voice was calm but deadly. "My hunters." Her expression hardened. "If they land, they will kill us both." Evan's breath caught. He stared at her, finally understanding something, whoever she was. Whatever she wasn't just an injured stranger. She wasn't just different, she was dangerous. And people were coming to kill her. And to kill him for helping her. Saraxa looked out the window with knowing eyes. "They come for the vampire queen of the void," she whispered. Evan felt cold fear crawl up his spine. He had treated the wounds of the most feared being in the galaxy. And now, death was coming to the door. The 3 warships hanging in the sky felt like shadows cast across the entire moon. Evan stared at them through the dusty window, unable to move. Saraxa stood beside him, weaker than she wanted to look, but her eyes were sharp, cold with the memory of centuries of battle. He turned to her slowly. "They're here for you." "Yes," she answered quietly. "And for you, because you helped me." His heart pounded. He had only wanted to save someone. He had only done what he believed was right. But now 3 warships were coming to kill him. Evan swallowed hard. Who are they? Hunters, she said, trained to hunt my kind. They fear what we can do. She paused. And they want what I am. Evan didn't understand fully, but he knew one thing, they were in danger. What do we do? Saraxa turned away from the window. Her voice was steady, but something inside it trembled. You will hide. I will go outside and face them. They want me. They do not need you. No, Evan said instantly. She looked at him with surprise. It is not a choice. If you remain with me, you die. If I leave, you live. Evan took a step toward her. I'm not letting you surrender yourself to people who want to hurt you. A strange softness entered her expression. Something she had not felt in centuries. Why do you care if I live or die? Because you're alive, Evan said simply. And because you're more than what they say. Saraxa looked away. She did not know how to respond. For the first time in her life, she felt something heavy inside her chest, a weight she could not name. Outside, the warships descended slowly onto the moon's surface. Dust rose in thick clouds as heavy metallic legs touched the ground. Ramps opened with deep mechanical groans. Armored soldiers marched out, tall, masked, and carrying weapons made to burn through metal. Their armor was marked with red symbols, showing their allegiance to the hunters of the void. Evan watched from his window as they formed a circle around the outpost. One of them stepped forward, holding a speaker device. His voice boomed across the plain. Human occupant of the outpost. We know you have taken in the fugitive queen. Surrender her at once, and you will be granted safe passage. Saraxa closed her eyes. They lie. If you surrender me, they will kill you anyway. Humans who assist my kind are seen as corrupted. Evan's hands shook. Then we don't open the door. Saraxa shook her head. They will break it. This place will not protect us. She walked a few steps away, but her legs trembled. Evan rushed to support her. She leaned on his shoulder, breathing slowly. You're still too weak, he whispered. You can't fight like this. I know, she said. My body needs time to recover. But time is what we do not have. Evan helped her sit down. She closed her eyes and took a long breath. Her skin flickered with faint, dark energy. But it was not enough. Her power had not returned. Not fully, not yet. Outside, the hunters activated a large device. It hummed loudly as they placed it at the door of the outpost. Evan recognized it instantly. A breaching charge. We need to go, he said urgently. Now. Saraxa opened her eyes. There is a tunnel under the floor of your storage room. I sensed it when you carried me. It leads to the old mining path. Evan stared at her. You sensed it? She gave a faint smile. I sense many things. They hurried to the storage room. Evan pushed boxes aside while Saraxa tried to walk without falling. Under the floor was a metal hatch. Evan pulled it open. The breaching charge outside beeped louder. Go, Evan urged. Saraxa climbed into the tunnel first, struggling but determined. Evan followed, closing the hatch behind them just as a massive explosion shook the entire outpost. Dust rained from the ceiling as they moved through the narrow tunnel. The lights flickered with every tremor. Saraxa leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You're not okay, Evan said. I will be, she whispered. But her voice was weaker than before. The tunnel led them into a dark mining chamber. Multiple paths spread out like arms, each leading deeper underground. We can hide here, Evan asked. No, Saraxa said. Hunters smell energy signatures. They will track us even into the caves. Then what do we do? She closed her eyes again. I must recover enough power to defend us. Evan looked around. How? Saraxa hesitated. Her voice when she spoke was almost ashamed. My kind feeds on energy. Life energy. He stiffened. Life energy, like living beings. She nodded slowly. Yes, so you would need to. He couldn't finish the sentence. I will not harm you, she said quickly. I would die. First, there are old generators deeper in the mine. They may provide enough power. Without waiting, she began walking deeper into the tunnels. Evan followed, even though every instinct told him this was dangerous. But he had already chosen to trust her. And he would not abandon her now. The hunters entered the outpost. Their boots cracked against the broken floor. They found the medical table, the broken armor pieces, the blood-colored stains. The leader crouched down and touched one of them. It was still warm. She was here, he growled. Find them. They could not have gone far. The hunters activated scanners. Red lines spread across the ground, pointing toward the storage room. They followed fast. Meanwhile, Evan and Saraxa reached the old power chamber deep underground. Massive metal generators stood covered in dust. Evan rushed to the control panel. Most systems were dead, but one generator still had faint power. He turned it on. It hummed weakly. Saraxa placed her hand on the generator. Her eyes closed. Then the air changed. Dark energy began flowing from the generator into her arm, then through her whole body. Her hair lifted slightly as if blown by an invisible wind. The symbols on her armor glowed again. Her breathing calmed. Strength returned to her limbs. Evan stepped back, watching with a mixture of awe and fear. Within minutes, she opened her eyes. And they glowed with full crimson fire. She looked alive again, dangerously alive. "You're back," Evan said quietly. "Not fully," she answered. "But enough." Footsteps echoed in the tunnel behind them. The hunters had found them. Saraxa stood tall, her expression changing from weakness to dominance. She turned toward Evan. "You must stay behind me." The armed soldiers entered the chamber, weapons aimed, masks glowing red. The leader raised his weapon. "Saraxa of the Void, your reign ends today." Saraxa stepped forward. Her voice was calm and cold, filled with centuries of command. "You have hunted me long enough. It ends here." The hunters opened fire. Saraxa moved like a shadow. Her body split into streaks of dark mist as she dodged the shots. Her arm extended, and energy burst from her palm, throwing soldiers across the chamber. Evan ducked behind a metal crate as explosions echoed around him. Saraxa leaped into the air, wings of pure black energy spreading behind her. She struck the leader, sending him crashing into the wall. The battle was fast, brutal, and filled with echoes of ancient power. But even with all her abilities, Saraxa was still weakened. A hunter managed to strike her with an energy blade, cutting across her side. She stumbled. The leader stepped forward, weapon aimed at her head. "This is for the thousands you destroyed." Evan didn't think. He ran forward and tackled the leader from behind. The weapon fired, hitting the ceiling instead. The leader threw Evan to the floor, turning his weapon toward him. Saraxa's eyes widened. Something inside her broke. She screamed, a sound that shook the entire chamber. A wave of dark power exploded from her, knocking every hunter to the ground. The leader slammed into a generator, unconscious. Silence filled the chamber. Evan looked up. Saraxa stood there, chest rising and falling, her eyes burning like two red suns. He swallowed. "You saved me." She walked toward him slowly, kneeling beside him. "You risked your life for mine," she said softly. "No one has ever done that." He looked into her eyes. "You're not the monster they say you are." She hesitated. Then she whispered, "Perhaps, not anymore." When the dust settled, the hunters were unconscious or defeated. Saraxa helped Evan stand. He looked around at the wrecked chamber. "What now?" he asked. Saraxa looked up toward the path leading out of the caves. "Their ships will send more soldiers soon. We cannot stay here. We must leave this moon." Evan nodded. "I can fly one of their small ships. I used to work on similar engines." Saraxa smiled faintly. "Then let us go." They climbed up the tunnel until they reached the surface again. The sky was dark, filled with smoke from the battle. One of the smaller hunter vessels was still untouched. Evan opened the hatch, and they both climbed in. As the engines powered up, Saraxa looked at him. "Evan Cross," she said slowly, "you have changed my path. My life debt is now yours. I will protect you, until fate ends me." He shook his head. "I don't want you to serve me. I want you to choose what you want to be." For a moment, her expression softened, truly softened, for the first time in centuries. "Then I choose," she said, "to walk beside you." Evan smiled. "Good, because I think the galaxy is going to need both of us." The ship lifted off the ground. The moon shrank behind them. A human engineer and the deadliest vampire queen in the galaxy flew together into the stars, not as enemies, but as two souls starting a new story. A story the galaxy would never forget. End.